Let's settle in. Come into the moment. Ease into the space.
Yeah. I've got my immortal elixir right here, which is gold tip black leaf buds from Tibet, picked by Tibetan monks, and rose petals from India. This is what I call the ultimate immortal elixir blend, and it's really something else. It has this ability to harness the energy, and it's never too much or never too little. And so, even though it's a black tea, you never feel the adverse effects of too much caffeine or anything of that nature. You can literally drink it just before you go to sleep, and you sleep like a baby because it's so nurturing. You feel all the nutrient effects of just embodying that and returning it back to the body and giving it all the nutrients that's necessary for it to be whole. And you just feel pretty energized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe there's also something about how our food is nurtured, the whole process of how it's nurtured, how it's grown, the whole production that goes into the food, the energy that goes into the food that affects the end user, you could say.
Yeah.
Especially with drugs. I don't know if you want to call tea or caffeine a drug, but it technically is. So when it comes to drugs and how it affects your brain, your mental, I think it has a lot to do with how it's curated.
Oh, yeah. The end run of that stuff is all an external fringe benefit of that very transitory effect. It doesn't become a permanence. It doesn't become an absolute, yet it can enhance one's experience through this journey to make more complete choices that remember who you are through that unity. So, even the enhancing of external alchemical highlights like psychonautic experiences can be beneficial, yet they're normally transitory, and just like the wave that is the firecracker, the fireworks, it will peak and then it will fall in on itself and return back to zero. And it's that moment from the seeker to the knower that you have that second where, just like Luke Skywalker and the Death Star, you can come in and enter into what we call the Wu Ji. We call that the primordial mother. We refer to it as the pulse, which is the animation to all things. So the pulse animates the consciousness animates the Shen, which most people refer to as spirit, and the spirit animates the energy animates the body, and then the body is made up of, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and whatever that transpires into your misdirection as seen through your reflection in the mirror that you identify as such. So then all of a sudden that becomes this very diminished return that continually decays as you invest more and more in the body. You invest more and more in thoughts and feelings as this sort of absolute, when it's actually a distraction. And so you'll see the inverted effects of that if you stay in that level and you're not progressively expanding this stress adaptation and expansion that will level you up to understanding that the currency of this realm, dimension, however people perceive it, is energy. Energy is that currency. So what do we make of that? All the way from the primordial mother, which is the magnetism, dielectric magnetism, and then further the evidence is the electric potential, which is, yin and yang. And so you use this as the currency to create. And as we put it within Taoism, immortality crystallized in the material. And with that, you can then start to shape things, and you have this path of no return where people will realize that they have entered into a detaching and attaching as unified, as absolute, as whole, which is constantly taking place, this completion and rebirth that's happening endlessly through your experience. You can enter it at any point. That's where that magnetism is evident, where that is abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite, and it doesn't require any attention from you. And so what's the fastest way to determine that is, okay, today I am breathing, I am walking, I am just being, and that doesn't require any attention. How is my blood pumping? How am I being able to experience this human being now moment? It has zero participation from you consciously going, oh, let me go down to the heart department and have a little inventory of whether we have the correct apparatus for this heart to be pumping today at its pacing and leading effect of X amount of beats per minute, per hour, per day. It doesn't require anything. So what most people that are listening to this should understand is you already possess this internal power that has never left you. And it's there now. It's accessible now. And you can look at it from the body perspective as we go down in that cycle from the pulse that animates the consciousness animates the spirit animates the energy animates the body, that body, it's transmuted all the way down to a material state that you can see evidence in, and you would refer to that as the autonomous or autonomic nervous system that is just using this pulse to transmute it into your body, to transmute it into your flesh, yet it never leaves. And that's the exciting potential from any seeker, is to find that entry level and embody it, live it, the non-dualist perspective that doesn't require any attention from you. And this is where people get all concerned by, well, I need to think about my guardians, my guides, my angels, my connection with Jesus, God, Buddha. These are all beautiful remembrance. But the truth is, this has the biggest psy-op within this state is that you, through your own experiences, through the test of time, through the diminished evidence from either religious or spiritual belief systems, they're being stolen from you. And you're being removed more and more from the true center point of who you are, because you're not able to remember, because you're conditioned to believe you are in this body, that your body, this body is you. And this is just a vehicle for you to emanate that pulse. And the faster that you slow things down, that's right, I just said it. The faster you slow things down, the slower you go, is evidence that it's not slow enough. And most of my students are like, what did you say, Jeffu? Yes, if you think it's too slow, it's not slow enough. And they're like, oh my goodness. But it's like the old expression, take a moment to smell the flowers, the roses, just be in the present moment. Well, that is truly evidence of this pulse. Because if you're not entertaining past or future, this is where you see profound things that can take place. And so how do you obtain that incredible knowing? Well, it comes from this material. So when you show evidence through the body that it's possible from just the autonomic nervous system, you're like, oh my goodness, I've already got it. Hang on, I've been spending years looking for this stuff, and I possessed it the whole time. Yeah. And, just as we refer back to that charge you and I are getting, we are oscillating. We are in communion. We are absolutely in tune with that pulse, and it's emanating through this conversation. And so when people come to that conclusion and they realize it, well, what have I been doing all this time? I've been chasing the carrot. I've been chasing this illusion that I need to have all these things to be whole, when the wholeness never left you.
Amen.
And now we have this sort of conflict where it's my team versus yours. Who's got the best end run? How do we acquire this? And what's the truth and the true nature of reality?
Wow. Powerful stuff. Yeah. It's interesting that you used the word psy-op. I don't remember exactly how you used it, but you said that's the psy-op, and there's plenty of
Right.
psy-ops that we live amongst. That's
Well,
taking us
it's
away from the pulse. Go ahead,
right,
sorry.
and it's a cultural thing. So you can look at it from a indoctrinated, organized religion, or any form of group think
Yeah.
that you can unify. Just as we are communing right now, there is energy potential that is being expressed, and you're able to feel it as an experiencer, as an observer of this conversation. You can feel it. To all my shout out to all my parapsychologist friends out there, we call this psychokinesis, and it's not really. It's nothing more than a clinical interpretation of what we're experiencing from a pulse level that is now. Yet some people feel myopic and needed to start defining these things, which in essence is like the undulating flame. So the flame, it's elusive, and every time you reach for it, it's gone. And this is very much problematic when you push hard on science, you push hard on any belief system, that you're going to find that you're going to be met with, it was there 1 minute, it's gone the next.
Yeah.
Because it's not a permanent, it's not the pulse. It's nothing more than an access point for you to remember who you are.
Yep. That's what the Buddha told us.
Right.
That's why we suffer, because we're reaching for the flame, continually reaching here and there, and it never works. We never fully grab it. You think it's because we don't know where to reach? Or maybe just, is it the act of reaching itself? You know, is it because we're not reaching in the right direction? Like how do I put this? Go ahead. I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, what it really comes down to, and what we refine within Taoism, we call it perfection manifest. When you cross over that threshold of detaching and attaching as all things, this whole contracting and expanding, understanding everything completes and is reborn all the time. There is this perfection. And when you access your true nature, your default, who you really are, everything is perfection. Everything is perfect. Everything is the pulse. So our conversation is never met with limitations, or we said too much, we said too little. It's right now. And so everything has its facet to that diamond. And it doesn't matter what you say or do, it's always good to be you. And that understanding comes from the experience. And so when people experience it, that's the crossroads, right? From belief system to knowing is a crossroads where most people get caught up in the system that they've created. So they've built this sort of idea of how they want to live their life or how they perceive reality, and it's met with a belief system. The belief system is stacked up on all these experiences that validate. It's like, oh, well, my life sucks and everything that I experience is shitty, and every day I wake up, I just want to go back to sleep and do it all over again, and it never seems to end. Well, your investment in that is the ultimate commodity. What's the commodity of this material state? Because we're creating with energy. We're either consuming energy or we're creating the energy. We're creating from that energy because it is the byproduct of that animation as we go down an understanding from pulse to consciousness to spirit to energy to the body. So the first access that anyone can realize that they're on that path going back to who they are is realizing that everything is this energy that is being created constantly, and it is then basically collapsing in on itself. And so there's more completion and creation is happening every second of every minute. And your opportunity, or as I would put it, your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, and strangely enough, I think the new movie is coming out. I definitely want to check that out. But it presents itself to any person that is curious. So you have the opportunity. It's like, okay, let me just start. Okay, so you guys are talking about this. How do I start from here? All right, well, you have a body, you have a personality, you have a life. Now let's look at these things from from the sense of, okay, you're conceptually telling me that you are everything. Well, right now, I have a body, I have a personality, and I have a life, I have a job, I have commitments, and all these things start to break down, which is coming from the body, coming from the mind, coming from the emotions. And so if you look at the events of animation from the primordial mother, which is the magnetism, all the way down to the byproduct within the body, you can then be systematically advantageous in your own journey. You can make it clinical. You can go, okay, well, I'm still very much in my head. I don't understand this intuitive thing. It doesn't work for me. Okay, so let's break it down as something that you can accept through your conditioning. If I say boo and you jump, you are conditioning yourself to that peak note, that tone. And we were talking briefly about that, how powerful the voice is, how it is a vehicle to emanate this incredible pulse. And once you tune the willow, as we put it within Taoism, you tune the willow and you're just an amplifier for this pulse, as that's what it's used for, to remember and then emanate this potency that is forever. And it is eternal, internal. And so when someone breaks that down, they're going, oh, okay, so I jumped when you said boo. Now you're conditioning yourself to your experience. Okay, well, how about meditation? I've never heard of that before. Okay, well, that's a great form of resetting something as simplistic. So we're in the body. Let's reset the nervous system by just taking a moment to remember. And so nothing quicker to get to the pulse than primordial breath. Breath is the entry and exit to this life. You take in breath, you come from water, you're born from the womb, and then the last thing you do is your last breath before you exit and enter for a re-up and a return to another experience that is a journey for you and you only. And so the simple conditioning is, okay, well, okay, I can get that. I understand exercising. If I go and work out, I get this sort of feeling where I'm getting the blood pumping through my body. I feel good because I'm regulating. You're moving energy. Everything is energy. And I think that's really important that people understand that, because this is the very commodity that helps people put things in their place as you're on that journey of remembrance. You need to put things in perspective so that you can pace and lead your experience without this unbelievable corruption of your personality, that I need to do it now. I've discovered that I'm spiritual and I'm a psychic and I'm a medium, I'm a healer, I'm a whatever you are. Feel into it. And it's still, we'll still return to that breath. It's right now. And take that moment to take ownership, to experience it as it is. And it doesn't require all this external noise, which that's the part that most people get caught up in. It's like, well, what's external noise? I'm John Smith and I have my own problems and I need to meet them with commitments. And this is the distortion. And we've talked about this before. You've talked about it endlessly with many incredible creators and wisdom teachers. And it's like, okay, that first point of evidence is, okay, if I believe my life sucks and I take a moment and all of a sudden I can change the chemistry of my body through the breath, within seconds, I went from highly anxious to depressed to just calm and relaxed. And unless you offer that to someone, they may spend their whole life with their foot on the pedal, never realizing they have all the things that are necessary for them to be whole. And it starts with something simple as primordial breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hidden in plain sight. It's almost too simple.
Right.
gloss over it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it, to be distracted. I mean, look at the miracle of birth, the miracle of human life. How absolutely it's in, it's beyond incredible. There really isn't words to describe that miracle.
Mm.
And we're doing this all the time, and it starts to translate as you continue to elevate your level of knowing that this is happening all the time, the completion and the rebirth.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you're saying looking at physical birth is and death is a metaphor for every moment that's always happening.
Well, yeah, from a Taoist perspective, it's the bellows effect. You are
Mm-hmm.
contracting and expanding all the time. That means you are all things and nothing at the same time. And that's what
Yeah.
people get. This is a paradox. And it's the more and more you let go of the fringe benefits of your personality, the less and less that's required for you to remember who you are, because it doesn't take any attention. So when you put your, as we said, the currency is the energy, yin and yang. You're seeing it through everything. You can pinpoint it right down to a myopic level or something as large as the human body or the universe. There's evidence of this symbiosis and this tango of these two energies. And now you have the ability to cultivate it within yourself, because you are a barometer. You're a tuning for the body is the tuning fork of this material state. So people will refer to it as realm, dimension, whatever. This is the evidence that you need to acquire complete liberation. Because without it, you're going to be stuck in the systematic clinical mechanisms that you believe are separate and not unified. And so it just goes on and on and on. The
Mm-hmm.
second you do something as liberating as returning to that primordial breath, things become so clear.
Yeah.
And I love watching the epiphany, the Sherlock to the Watson, as they discover that the human condition, through that human condition, is what you would call the intellect. You navigate through that labyrinth and then come out the other side to human being, the human beingness of that whole. And that would reflect as an intuitive state.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a journey, and the journey can be instantaneous. I mean, we're having this conversation and we've dropped so many nuggets just through our conversation of what people can go, okay. Well, that makes sense. I exercise, and it's strange. When I exercise, I feel like liberated. Well, explain that to me. Well, yeah, I don't know. I just move, and I feel like all the weight of things that are in my mind or heavy on my body, they just express. And I feel completely like this complete release. Of course, because I mean, energetically, what happens is when you do any form of exercise, you evoke certain channels in the body, specifically the liver and the spleen, which for anyone who's conflicted with their mental, emotional state is the first way to regulate themselves and give them evidence of such. So you just instantly move the energy, exert yourself with a quick run across your backyard, or a couple of jumping jacks, or maybe you're into some weights, pick up that tactile steel, whether it's a dumbbell, a bar, or something, a kettlebell, and feel how that changes that symbiotic relationship of yin and yang. And it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that metal really met me in the middle and released, and I instantly released this energy that was being suppressed, that was being controlled. And now I feel better. And I think the most important thing to be from a conceptual perspective is to be able to show yourself the evidence so that you can continue, because that's the most defeatist sort of state for anyone that's on this journey of remembrance, is that they keep meeting it with something that is unobtainable in their logic, because
Mm.
you're never ever going to be satisfied with your intellect. Your logic is always going to be disappointed. Critical thinking is in of itself a misdirection.
Yeah. And there's plenty of evidence against that as well. False evidence. that's continually being spewed in our face, that none of this is real. This is all magic and fairy tales, and what we're talking about now is just two guys, two lunatics, just BSing. And it might seem like that, yes, to the mind, to the critical thinking, to the logic, to the intellect, for sure. But as you stated, it's more of like an energetic, intuitive truth that one directly feels, that you have to find evidence of within oneself. So I guess all we can really be is a testament. That's what I like to say, is I'm just like a testament and a reminder for everybody to find this wavelength, this pulse within yourself, because our words only go so far. Words are powerful for sure. There's a certain transmission in the word, but the transmission, I think, is meant to turn you on, like a transmission of a car. You know, it's got to take it to the next gear. And I think that's what the greatest service and use of a transmission with words is for, you know, in terms of another person listening to this right now. It's like, hopefully, ideally, we're using this to turn somebody on so that they can go exercise, they can go meditate, they can go for a walk in the woods or do whatever, you know. It's to just feel this within oneself. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Amen to that, brother. I mean, it's like that transmission is like an ignition, an energetic,
exactly. Yeah.
right, right. And so, how does that happen? It's that spark of divinity, that relationship of the macro to the micro, that is that emulating effect of the universe within you that is outside of you, this union that we have had as Taoists for thousands of years. It's that intimate relationship that you have with the universe, and you realize that you can enter it at any moment. So that spark of divinity would be more in reflection of desire. That desire then moves into inquiry. Inquiry then flames contemplation. Contemplation, then you enter into curiosity. Curiosity, from that curiosity, you create a belief system, and that belief system blossoms into a knowing only from experience.
Yeah.
And so that experience will be determined by you.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll keep accumulating it.
Yep. And the accumulation never ends too. It's not like you get a bunch and you say, that's it. The beauty of it is that the accumulation is eternal. It's forever. You know, that's part of the journey. And it's also a good point that you brought up how you create a belief system. I like to say like a framework. You create a framework that works for you. I think a lot of people, I'm not judging, this is just from my personal experience and just witnessing, you know, just my observation. They don't have a framework. There's no basis of reality. It's all just chaos, nihilism, and that leads to cynicism. There's no like basis of truth in anybody's life. And I think that's a huge malady that we have to live with, that a lot of people do live with, that there is no point, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's nothing, there's no order, right? But I do fully believe that once you do the practices and the modalities, that naturally, intuitively, a framework or belief system starts to just naturally imbue in your life. I find that, at least. And I think that's what we need. We need a belief system to sort of lead us through the trials and tribulations of the human condition. Because if not, then you do fall into chaos. You do fall into nihilism, that this is all just randomness, right? That seems to be the popular paradigm. It's all just random. Live and let live. Ultimate hedonism, right? And many things that come forth from it. But it's all because there's no basis in belief system. And as you mentioned, people have done this for thousands of years. It's not like we're recreating a belief system or a framework. We're kind of just like borrowing it from people that did it in the past. It'll probably be pertained to you in your journey for sure, right? I have a certain framework that you probably don't have, but yet it shares similarities to people that have come before us. They've paved the way for us. I like to give so much homage to the people that have come before me, that have laid the groundwork for me to learn from, right? Those guys are legends, or girls. Those guys and girls are legends. The ones that provided us things like the Tao Te Ching, the Bible, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita. They laid the framework for us to learn from. And hallelujah to that. It's truly a miracle. So yeah, point of my story is it's important to have, and it's a good point that you brought up. It's important to have a framework and belief system that you can sort of rely on. You know,
Yeah, it's the method to the madness,
that's it.
which is
That's
all
good.
that. I mean, that's how I define Taoist alchemy, because it
Yeah.
gives you evidence, and that evidence continues stoking the fire of your reality as you constantly ascend to a state that you feel whole. Because really, the general purpose of the human condition is to return to that beingness that is an absolute unification of everything. And there's a journey. There's like this exciting journey as your Sherlock to your Watson to discover all the crumbs that make you whole and are interpreted as such, because there's, you say tomato, I say tomato. Within Taoism, we're all a facet of the diamond of perfection. There is no right or wrong. And that seems so wishy-washy for most people. They're like, oh my goodness, it sounds like some new age gobbledygook. But the truth is you are creating. When you pass over from consuming to creating, things change.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that consumption comes from the intellect. It comes from your personality, and that's the distraction. You get caught up in that, and then you get removed, and then groupthink methods of indoctrination come from that. And you
Mm-hmm.
should always use the barometer of the body's feeling, that visceral, somatic, kinesthetic response, to determine what is true to you. Are you contracting or expanding? And you'll know it. You'll be like, oh, when I'm around that person, I am absolutely contracting. I could probably, in the right place, take a piece of coal and turn it into a diamond. I'm contracting so much. And this is a very simple evidence. And people need to, this is that stress, adaptation, and expansion. And as you refer to it, as we referred to it before, the conditioning can go in either direction. You're conditioning to remember who you are through the body, and that comes from a method. The more and
Yeah.
more I like to call it the 72-hour challenge: accept and allow everything for 72 hours. And people are like, well, what is that going to do? Trust me, by the 24th hour, you're going to be like, Mary J. Blige, no more drama in my life. It just disappears. It's like, hang on, whoa, what's going on here? I literally was fighting against this, excepting my neighbor came up to me and said, your dog's pooping on my front lawn. And instead of creating conflict, it's like, okay, thank you, Bob. I'm really sorry about that. Let me go and pick it up. Instead of going, screw you. You
Mm.
have your dog barking at 2 a.m. And if my dog wants to poop on it's conflict. It's unnecessary, because once again, you're entering into the fringe benefits of your personality that consume everything external. None of it's being derived from that internal state that comes from here. And
Mm.
so when you just accept Bob, all of a sudden that creates an opening, because you just liberated more energy and returned back to you. So then you go from Bob, and because of your repetitive, incessant nature, you're changing the way that you're resonating. So you go from Bob, and the next minute you go to work and your boss says, hey, you're 5 minutes late. I'm going to dock your pay. Okay. Now let me accept that and go, well, I'm sorry, Roger. I won't do that again. Thank you. Instead of, how dare you dock my pay? I work hard. I've been working here for 5 years. And what happens is the gap gets wider. You reclaim and liberate more energy. And you're like, this is weird. The more I enter into this, the more I feel whole. I feel grounded. I feel calm. Yet I'm not really doing much. I'm just allowing it and accepting it. So, the old understanding of it's not happening to you, it's happening through you. And then people go, whoa, hang on a second. Now I'm onto something. And literally within 48 hours of participating in your own experiment of who you really are, you find that all this stuff that magnetized to you before, that was just havoc, chaos, pain, and suffering, it just disappears. And it's so overwhelmingly clear that this is not happening, that they have to stop. This is your moment of consciousness. This is the moment where the dial is turning up. And then you go, wow, I mean, I can't deny this. I'm experiencing nothing. I'm not. Hang on. What happened to me hating my neighbor, or wishing my mother-in-law was dead, or all these types of things that go through the mind? That is the consumption of the external energy, because you're liberating it. You're returning it to yourself, which is that currency that we keep talking about, and you're not handing it off like fireworks, as we talked about. That diminished return, and the more you hand it out, the less and less you become whole. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. From conflict to creation.
Mm-hmm.
And forgiveness. You just explained forgiveness, essentially what Jesus was trying to teach us. He just used a little bit different terminology, but it really starts with forgiveness. That's really the most powerful tenet, I feel, when it comes to the spiritual path, and something that I think all belief systems and frameworks can relate on. It's like forgiving thy neighbor. Truly.
Love thy neighbor.
Love thy neighbor. Exactly. Yeah. Take it that far. Love thy neighbor. Same thing, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that note, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. One may think by allowing everything that you become a pushover, right? That you become pacified, you submit. Now, I know what you're talking about, but how would you explain a sort of power that comes from this? How does allowance in creation or power coincide? How are they the same thing, and how does one not exactly become a pushover by allowing somebody's dog to shit on their lawn or taking shit from your boss? You know what I'm getting at here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the ultimate paradox, right? So when you get into the weeds of things, the more control you need, the less control you will actually have. And so when you reach for this so-called power and controlling what is an external state, it will slip away from you. It will become more diminished, and you'll have less and less access to your internal power. The more you allow, the more you liberate, and you'll feel the difference. And so, being submissive is a very diminished sort of perception, because this is what the word submissive infers, that you are weak. In actuality, it's a complete opposite, because what we refer to this as the complete access to the illumination. And this comes from being selfish to selflessness requires the sacrifice. And that's where people pucker up. And I'm like, well, what is the sacrifice, Jifu? Your personality is the sacrifice. You reclaim it, or you relabel it as desire for control. The evidence will be none whatsoever. And when you realize that undulating flame can be accessible, you can capture it and emanate it and hold it as this now moment, and it will oscillate and it will show itself, because the second your attention, being the most valuable commodity as a creator, your attention to intention, this is where it's at. That's the center point. When you acquire that, anything is possible. And so when it comes to our chemical process, the more and more we have an intimate relationship with the energy potentials, and we fortify that, we refer to it as chi packing, absorbing the riches. Things become so tangible in an intangible contemplation, which most people would refer to as the ether, something that is beyond comprehension or the senses. We create within this material state. So it is palpable, it is tangible, it is a direct line. And most people will talk about it through the chemical process from turning lead to gold. It's called the plasma, or in Taoism, Fajin. And this stuff is real. And all of a sudden, you're like a painter. You're having a virtual reality experience, and you're being able to capture this potential and move it around like Play-Doh, like clay. And so this gives you more evidence of the true nature of what this is, which is just all energy. And so when you go down to the point of, well, what if I don't want to be the little sissy, submissive? Um, um, I am powerful. I am whole. I have sovereignty over myself, and I'm not going to allow anyone to intimidate me or control me. Well, in actuality, you are being controlled by yourself. You're being controlled by your personality. That's the external force that is creating limitations in your life. Because once you access this point, all bets are off. That liberation only expands, and you will find that you will have to fight. You'll have to try and fight it. You will look for it. You'll be like, "Hang on a second. I am looking for conflict. This guy just told me to f myself, and all I want to do is give him a hug and say I love you." And people are like, that seems like an impossibility. Oh, no, not at all. When you look at most of the wisdom teachers that you can reference that are referred to as gurus, Dalai Lama or Sadhguru, or someone that has insight to this wisdom teaching, everything is jovial, everything is childlike, and everything is just another moment of bliss, joy, and happiness. And no matter what you show them, they're going to continue to give back to you this resonance that we talk about. So, within this yin and yang, everything is energy potential. That energy potential is vibratory, frequential, and ultimately has this secret source, this resonance that you hold. If you can hold it, if you can emulate that resonance and you have the container to maintain it, this is where your resonance, or the old expression, your reputation precedes you. This is where people want to commune with wisdom teachers. They want to just sit with them and take a moment of communion, because they're feeling the emanation of this love, this unified state that is beyond words. And that's that chill you and I got just right now. That is the secret sauce, right? Because it doesn't require anything. And this is what people gravitate to. You're on your own path of self-remembrance when you can enter into these unions and realize, that's me. That's why it's so familiar. Oh my goodness. And from that, you bear these fruitful moments that from a human condition perspective would seem like love, joy, bliss, happiness. And it's still a name that you're giving it, yet it's a resonance that is part of this unified state. And I'm a very sacred, ritualistic person that uses ancient tools. And love is a great word to describe my unification with the mother, with the primordial mother. But in essence, it's one of the facets of the diamond. And so as you reveal yourself, you look at everything as perfection. You're perfection. I'm perfection. And you say, well, I'm perfection. Yeah, because this is just the body, the personality. I can see beauty in everything. Nothing. It's like a cup is perfection. A cell phone. It doesn't matter what it is. You can see that beauty, and it doesn't require you having to manipulate or control. That's that control piece. You're not submitting to anything. That is your frequency. That no matter what, is servitude and selflessness. Mm-hmm. And it requires nothing. And that's that part where people are like, oh my goodness, aren't you upset that you spent 3 hours talking to some guy on a podcast? I welcome this. This is the most sacred to me, is to be able to enter into a commune, a unified ritual that we're experiencing. And as we continually dance with that symbiosis, and the energy builds on itself and we feel it through the experience, it's just another validation of that pure essence that is that pulse. And it's what we're experiencing now that makes it so beautiful. And it's like, there's nothing more satisfying or completing of any experience than just being here with you, my friend.
Amen. Right back at you. Yeah. So on the note that you just so eloquently described, the act of creation it almost has like nothing to do with interpersonal matters. You know, if the dog shits on my lawn, or if he doesn't, it's all equal. It's all equanimous because it comes from inside. It doesn't come from any of the outside phenomena. You are the arbiter of um, how you feel, essentially, of how you create your own reality. So that's the invulnerability, it seems. That's the immortality key. It's that it doesn't really matter what happens. I think all of the saints and sages have that similarity. It's like ultimate safety within themselves, you know? It's like ultimate just a foundation of peacefulness. And whatever happens on the outside is just another ephemeral experience. It's just another coming and going. Again, Jesus showed us that. He's the prime example, maybe, of that sacrifice. He's like, just nail me up. It don't matter. So whatever, it's just the body. I'll come back. So I think that's what it is, man. It's like we sacrifice, as you said, just echoing what you said, we sacrifice who we think we are, this false personality, to this pulse, to this truth. And in that sacrifice lies some kind of immutable invincibility, right? Like nothing can harm you. Doesn't matter what somebody does to you. Doesn't matter what somebody says to you. You're chilling. You're just kind of sitting back like this. I'm good. And that truly is beautiful. And it is very beautiful and miraculous to be able to experience that and feel that in this moment as well. To know that that is the truth, you know, it really is, man. Because we're going to hang up this podcast. We're going to, whenever we're done talking, go out throughout our day. And I'm going to take this, and hopefully anybody listening will take this into their day. It's invincibility. I don't know any other word. I just feel like invulnerable to distortion, the distortion of the world. And in that, we create a new dream. We create a new world. It starts within ourselves, for sure. That creation starts right here. But then it just naturally reflects. It just naturally imbues our actions as we go and move forth and serve however we need to serve in the world. You know, that's the beautiful thing too, is it's like not only is it a better experience for yourself, you know, your sense of separate self, my sense of Gary, you know, in this experience, but also yourself that is not really seemingly yourself as in the others, you know, the people around you, your community. It's a win-win. And that's the beauty of love. That's the beauty of sacrifice. That's the beauty of service. It's like, that's how we do truly create the kingdom of heaven on earth, is we find it within. Again, as Jesus said, Jesus coming up a lot. I got the Bible right here. Maybe that's why. Find the kingdom of heaven within, first of all, the Tao within, and then the Tao just naturally flows without. We go with that. We dance with that. You know, the dance of the Tao. It's quite beautiful. So yeah, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for transmuting that message for me and anybody listening in the future.
Yeah,
You know, that's the thing too. Sorry, did you have something to say?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say how when you can tune in, when I tune in at least, when we tap in and what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, what's another word for like tuning in when we're transmitting, you know, we're syncing up in some way. It's so, yeah, it's so apparent when you're synchronized, especially with another person, with a realized being like you. It's the synchronization and the realization, it's obvious. That's the thing too. It's like, oh, of course. Of course. This is it. This is what you can say I've been looking for the whole time. And it's just through the direct experience. It's just through the direct, like, felt knowing within my body, not the mind, as we said plenty of times before. I feel it within my whole body. It's this very visceral um, feeling that isn't even really quite a feeling. It's just like I don't know how else to say it. Just yes, yes, of course. You know what I'm getting at? It's so apparent.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it makes you whole. You
Mm-hmm.
want for nothing. You think of nothing. You are just now.
That's it, man.
And
Mm.
so nothing distracts it's like the Jade Emperor, one of my teachers always reminds me, when you accept you are not of this body, what can harm you?
Yeah, that's the beauty, right?
Right?
That's the psy-op. They don't
Yeah.
want you to know that. Because then from that vantage point, you can't be controlled. Because they control us through fear by controlling our bodies. You know, the ultimate form of control is through the threat of violence. We don't want violence
Right. Right.
or condemnation to come down on this body. But once you realize, hey man, it's not that's not it. There's a little more going on. Then you can really do anything. And the powers that be aren't really the powers that be anymore.
Well, yeah, it's like a very few attempting to control, you know, the masses,
Yeah.
ultimately the population through fear and some type of authority. This is how you obtain this.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the biggest traits, it seems to be popular right now to define a narcissist. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, do you know a narcissist? Have you ever seen one before? I mean, again, it's just, again, transmuted effects of the human condition that just show you how deficient or low frequency something is. Is that truly who that person is? No. So
Yeah.
we always refer to it within Taoism, cast the wicked away and draw that person closer. So no
Mm.
matter what, that is not the truth. That low frequential state that is being emanated from their person is not the true nature of who they are. You are me, I am you. Yet there is that distortion, that groupthink, that conditioned state that has derived 100% from some level of mental emotional realization through their life experiences, no matter what. it's
Yep.
it's it's going to be the evidence, whether you're hung up on the fact that mummy didn't give you 5 Oreo cookies when you were 4, or you almost got in a car accident not a week ago. You will find that this is the transmuted evidence that you get, because you are a macro of a micro, micro of a macro. All is one, one is all. And so whatever you're transmitting, it will magnetize you like a moth to a flame. And so it doesn't take much. The more you condition yourself to the autonomic state, which is who you really are, and liberate that unconscious process that most people talk about, that's very clinical, but it will help someone understand what we're speaking of. When you liberate that, it's on cruise control. It doesn't require any attention from you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that means your resonance will precede you. And all of a sudden, it's that serendipitous synchronistic moment that we
Yep.
refer to within Taoism as Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort. And that's that pulse. And you are living, breathing emanation of that. So for a Taoist, it would be every thought, feeling, and emotion is an expression of you are the physical, energetic, and spiritual manifestation of divine word, will, light, love of the Tao. And that's where it doesn't matter what you transmit. You may be in your personality, but your personality never trumps the resonance. So you can literally be engaged in, anger, or watching Netflix, or eating chocolate bonbons, and you're still emanating that resonance. And so all of a sudden, oh, that's really, I don't have to participate in this. This is a cruise control moment.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. Yes, amen to that. Yes.
I could use the bathroom again. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a
Go
little
for it.
distracting. Take a quick breather, take a quick break. Intermission,
Yeah.
everybody. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are back. The Tao was taking me to the bathroom. I have
Yes.
returned. Much better.
Yes, brother.
All right. Yeah, so a good point that I wanted to bring up was how you said the evidence, you'll see the evidence, and I iterated how I feel the evidence. It's quite apparent It's a whole body experience. It's a whole body just knowing. And you also said there is a sort of serendipitous nature, a synchronistic nature that one also finds. And I think that's a good point too, because I feel or see this evidence in the world around me as well. There's things that just line up once you are synced up, once you do the practices, you could say, let the energy flow through you. In the seeming outside world, there is a lot of evidence I find. Things just happen, and I'm just like, wait, what? What's the chances? And things just line up too well. Coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. So, do you have anything on that note about how the synchronicities are almost like too good to be true? Once you kind of get aligned with the Tao shows itself in forms that you couldn't even think are possible.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a great example of evidence and the sacrifice that you're making, which is ultimately the experience. So, for example, I just had a student the other day. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't get this energy thing. I want it. It's there. I feel it. Then it disappears. And I feel like I'm the worst student ever, and I can never get this right. And just down the rabbit hole of introspective, analytical, chaos. But I brought it to her attention. I said, you're getting evidence immediately. Well, what do you mean? I'm not getting the ultimate energy admission. You are practicing this resonance through this exercise that I've given you, and the evidence is your collapsing and chaos of the emotional state that you're having right now. That is bringing it to the forefront. It's raising it to the surface so that you can realize that this is part of the energy liberation, not something where you're limited by, oh, this is happening to me. No. It's happening through you. And when it happens, when you have that little epiphany, all of a sudden, every thought, every feeling and emotion is transitory. It's nothing more than that. It has no permanence. It has no relevance to who you really are. And then you can go, wow, this is a liberation of energy. And this is where you get into the conflict of people attempting to commandeer the mind as this separate entity, as if it's the psychology, the psyche is separate from everything else. And furthermore, then you start being, that's crazy talk. You can't talk like that. That seems to be a little bit diluted. If you're experiencing this thing and you're telling yourself that it's an energy admission that is liberating you and returning you to whole. No. We need to go inside, not inside here, but inside and fold over more of the psyche to continually manipulate and separate you further and further and further from your truth by compartmentalizing all these things. The thought is different to the emotion is different to the feeling, and all these things are part of your mind, as if that is separate from the body, the spirit, the energy. And so we go down that path, and when you realize that everything you're experiencing, just referring right back to how there is no coincidences, that is the Wu way. That is the effortless action, effortless effort, the synchronistic serendipitous moments. And so when you're experiencing this fear, anxiety, anger, that is a result of your own resonance, your own cultivation, and it is being liberated through the body. This is the tuning fork, the willow, as we put it, which is an illuminating state that creates. Hang on a second. I need to just make sure I put my charger on. By eliminating the limited, where is it? Yeah. By eliminating the limited perspective of personality, the cult of personality. I love that song. You realize that, hang on a second, I'm just now, right? And so people are always talking about this, oh, the now moment, da, 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 da. That's great. show me evidence of what you speak of. Because when you truly allow everything to just fold in on itself or fold out of itself, that liberation will show itself in this harmonizing state that cannot be captured by words. You just, nothing will affect the default. Nothing will affect the resonance. And so the biggest issue that people have is they continually separate themselves. So, they like to use the logic when someone says psychosomatic, I'm like, absolutely. Well, no, that's a problem. You're creating it from your mind that you're feeling this in your, yeah, what, what seems to be the twist here? Because it's actually your experience of this emanated energy that is being transferred as such. But from the lens of psychology, you're being separated, that you're making this stuff up in your mind. Wow. If that isn't the biggest head screw, I don't know what is, because that makes people very introspective. So the second that you take the moment to realize that everything is an experience, nothing goes to waste, everything is an emanated energy, then all of a sudden things change. And it's just how you look at the lens. So if you want to just perceive it as, the now moment for a Taoist is pulse. That's it. You're just in that unified state. You feel whole. All the requirements of the fringe benefits of your personality, that is a consumption of external forces. It's not the creation of your internal state. Then you start to realize, whoa, really? So what I'm perceiving is just all an external effect. And what happens is when that starts to, as you pull that in to the center point, when we're doing that symbiosis, that dance, that tango between yin and yang, you pull in the external energy, which is the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And as it enters into the center point, you have a oh shit moment, a realization, and it starts to emanate. The heart will emanate the truth, no matter how distorted it is. The more you draw that into that center point, that vesica, what we call the Wu Ji, you will be shown the truth, and it will start to emanate in the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and you'll either be conflicted or you'll fall back into it and find nirvana, find harmony, find unity. And it's that simple. It's like a contraction or expanding moment.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Yeah. What's often emphasized in non-dual teachings, New Age spiritual teachings, is the stillness, right? The stillness of mind. Brahman. It's the ultimate still point, especially in Buddhism, right? No self. This sort of visualization of a void, which I know doesn't really make sense, but I think you know what I'm getting at. It's all about the stillness, right? But I like Taoism because it's like not just about the stillness, it's about the dance. It's about the yin and the yang. It's about the flow. And that's what I resonate with a lot more, is the flow. It's like if you get too attached to the stillness, that is also going to cause suffering. But if you're too attached to the world as well, like how it flows, the phenomenal world, the ephemeral experiences, that's also going to cause suffering. So I like the explanation of Taoism because it is this dance, it's this tango, as you said. It's the middle way, essentially, of what Buddha was trying to teach us, between Shiva and Shakti, Nirvana and Samsara. It's not concentrating too much on the stillness, because you can get lost in that as well. That can be another attachment. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to light about how Taoism is this beautiful framework and explanation of the whole mix. It's a little bit more than the stillness, or a little bit less than the stillness, depending on how you look at it. It's this from the stillness comes infinite potential. That's the thing a lot of non-dual teachers, I think, miss out on. From no self, from anatta, comes the beautiful flourishing of energy, of Shakti. You can't negate that either, because that's another attachment. So yeah, you eloquently described that. Just giving you kudos.
Yeah, well, and that's the beautiful part about as you move closer, but that tango requires that understanding. And so you will get the evidence. Once again, we go back to the evidence. It's like,
It's all about the
okay,
evidence.
the external stuff, what Jifu, I'm talking in the third person, not out of ego, but it's just the way it's funny how you look at a lot of teachers and they tend to talk like that because they want to give you the answer. And I'm not even giving you an answer. Whatever Lutzu gives me, I'm like, I'm as dumb as rocks. It just so happens it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. The information comes out. And so when you look at that, you're drawing this external force of energy that really is the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and you're attempting to unify it into the body. And that's where it becomes problematic because as you draw it in, there is a process to the energetics. And it enters from here, and then it moves down into what we call the solar plexus, which is within Taoism, we call that the yellow cord. That is where all things are then realized and then transmitted into your system, into your organs, into your body. So you have that moment where if you're drawing all this stuff into the truth teller, we call the Shen, where it resides within the heart, that truth teller will then transmute it into that yellow quart, and it will be like, okay, so you're in my department. What are you here for today? Well, I'm anger. Okay, just wait a minute. I've got fear over here. Hang on a second. Okay, fear is here. Oh, excellent. And hang on, I've got 2 head counts for anxiety. Where is that? Where? And a thought from your mother. Hang on, get in that line. And so your yellow quart literally determines where all these thoughts, feelings, and emotions will reside within the body. And so the more and more you liberate this stuff, or the more and more you suppress it, invert it, it will show itself through the physical body. It will just show itself. That's part of your evidence. Or furthermore, your liberation it will show itself through this ability to stay absolutely in the center, where no matter what, everything is beautiful. Everything is perfection. And so that distortion will be tested. There will be a test. There will be a stress adaptation and then expansion. And so the more and more people realize this, the more you draw it in. It's not actually being created from inside you. You are accumulating it from external forces, including your thought processes. Your personality is an external force. It is not the true nature of who you are. The center of your realized state is here, and that is got nothing to do with the external state of the personality, which is the fringe benefits of consumption. This is the creator. And that's why when you draw this stuff in, you have this adverse effect where you either feel into bliss, joy, and happiness, and you find this homeostasis and this wholeness, or you feel the adverse effects, which is all the distorted stuff. I'm anxious, I'm fearful, I'm angry, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless, I'm depressed. This is you meeting that center point. It's like the dance of the needle between yin and yang, as that energy is showing itself and it's going back and forth, and you're either one extreme or another, which is where most healers or energetic people or spiritual people, they absorb too much of the yin, and it shows through the body, and you'll start to see it physically. And you go, whoa, hang on a second. What's going on? This wisdom teacher has such insight, yet the rest of their body is chaotic. It's going sideways. And so you find a lot of psychics and mediums that are profound psychic and mediums. They have not regulated the energy potential. And so from that extreme, that will consume. It will consume your life force. And so then you'll see it and you'll be like, oh my goodness, this person's a profound psychic, yet they're like extremely obese. And you're like, hang on a second, whoa, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. Well, actually, it's showing itself through the flesh. It's consuming the energy, and it's transmuting itself to this distorted state. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I see that as well. A lot of times I see, spiritual people, quote unquote, and then there's something up with their body, and I'm like, well, that's a sign. That's a message that goes deeper than what they're saying.
Yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
a reflection. Your body is a reflection of the internal,
Right.
and it holds messages that go beyond words.
Right.
I often wonder what losing my hair means. Losing my hair in my 20s. I don't know what that means.
Well, it can mean nothing or something, but you
Yeah,
look at it from the perspective of, has that changed who you really are? Are you still attached to the trappings of the external state, the image, the very impermanent transitory effects of mortality, the flesh?
exactly.
And the less you move into, this identity or need to hold on to something that is impermanent, you become extremely comfortable. It's not until someone, like, say, for example, you find someone at a certain age that has affected something that, 20 years ago would have been an issue. Like, say you're in your 50s and you look back and you're like, in the 20s, oh my goodness, it's so disgusting. I have hair on my back. And now you're in your 50s. It's like, I couldn't care less if I have hair. You've changed the perception of your experience, and what you have valued has changed. What you're experiencing has changed. And sometimes people just give up, and they're not allowing themselves to truly liberate who they are. They just give
Mm-hmm.
up. And so it's not a matter of, oh, I've just accepted it. I'm in a place where it no longer has any value to me, but it's not from a place of liberation. It's more a place of suppression and an inverted, corruption and decay that comes from that. Whereas when I look at the energy of your auric field and all the things that are being shared with me, that is a liberation of your heart and expansion from that transfer, that moment where you said you lost your hair. You are expanding. This is what we call the bai hui, which is the top of your head. That's the entry point to the heavens. It doesn't get more powerful than that. And
Mm-hmm.
you are so expanded that you're just eliminating anything that could potentially obstruct that energy flow now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I like that. I like that explanation.
Yeah,
The hair is getting in the way to heaven.
absolutely.
Yeah. It was also a profound lesson in surrender to the aging process. Essentially, it's like premature aging. Going bald in your 20s is a very, if you want it to be, it's a very deep lesson in
Humility. Humility.
humility. Exactly. Yeah. And once you get through it, it actually does make you stronger. Makes you, for me personally, it's like I don't know. It's another essence of like nothing can harm me. It's like I'm bald. What are you gonna do about it? Type of thing. It's like I don't know how to explain it, because it's like if the more you fight it, as you said, it's just gonna make it worse. But the more you give in, it makes you stronger, especially at a young age. So yeah, one could look at it as like, woe is me, I lost my hair, or you can just look at it like this is like a suit of armor. You know, it's something that like, oh, nothing can harm me now. I'm bald. But yeah, that was just a for instance. I don't want to go too much on it. It's kind of just like a it doesn't have to be hair, anything about your body. Just like embrace the things that are outside of your control, and it'll make you stronger. It'll make your spirit stronger. That's what I find, at least. It made my spirit stronger. It made me realize how much emphasis I was putting on my body and my hair. I go get expensive haircuts and care if it looked this way and stuff like that. We have all of us have those biases toward our own body, whether it's your hair or your your skin tone, your body shape, just everything. We have these unconscious biases that we don't even notice. But I think once you can embrace that a lot of that is outside of our control, especially aging, then you can become more free, you know? So yeah, moral of the story is me going bald at a young age has just made me more liberated and free into this energy that we're speaking on. There's no barrier to heaven anymore.
Well, that's that sacrifice. It's a
That's it, man.
sacrifice, and you're not attempting to control it. And that's
Yeah,
where you become
exactly.
liberated. You become expansive from that lack of, or that need to control the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's freedom. That's what freedom's all about, it seems. Stop trying to control this whole thing.
Well, that's where you become the maestro. You become imperium. You become dominion to this state when you realize that it doesn't require anything to do with your insight, your
Mm-hmm.
intellect. Nothing, nothing at all. And people tend to get caught up in that external state. That is the stressor. And everything must return to the center point, no matter what the circumstance. As you dance between yin and yang, everything will always return back to here, and it will be filed in its appropriate places. And if it's so distorted, the heart will allocate it to specific parts of the body, or furthermore, depending on your own cultivational practice, the second it enters the heart, it will emanate and expand and liberate. And there'll be no need to allocate it within the body and have it, of course, accumulate on itself. And eventually it turns into some sort of red flag later in your mortal journey that this is now physical, which is the lowest level of transmutation.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing too, is it reflects in the body, not necessarily in your hair or your weight. It does, it has those effects, but it's also in the aura. That's the buzzword that a lot of the kids are using. It's the aura. Does this person have aura? There's something about the energy that just comes forth from a realized person's body that you can't fake. You can't fake that pulse, as you said. And it's so apparent when you see somebody that's calm, cool, collected. They have some sort of realization. It's in the way they sit. It's in the way that they talk. It's in the way that everything moves. So it's more than just hair, more than just weight. It's like how it runs, how the body, just the literal movement of the body, how somebody holds their body too. When somebody's tense, their shoulders are like this, they're looking down. There's so many different signs, so much evidence. We're bringing up the word evidence a lot, but there's so much evidence to this wavelength that we're speaking on. And yeah, the body is a huge reflection to that energy in many different ways, in many different facets. And if you know how to look at it in the right way, look at yourself especially, you'll be able to decipher the evidence just like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what body language is.
Exactly.
And we refer to this type of like insightful evidence, and in basically inquiry, we refer to that as ancient face reading. We've been doing that for thousands of years. So you can take any
Mm,
part of the body and decipher what the real outcome is of the individual. Face reading is so powerful because you can take sections, or furthermore, just observing someone. Like, I mean, so many people on the internet are peddling this. I'm a behavioralist, I'm a psychologist, I'm whatever. You can very quickly see the emanating effects of what's going on in their mental, emotional, physical state through their face. So when they're talking, I'm probably the last person you want to talk to and create the big white lie or whatever you want to call it, because I just see the energy and
yeah.
I'm able to give you a refresh or a rehash of what it is that you think you believe, or what you want to hand out as your version of that. And if that's in the conversation, then I can share it. So you will see things that present themselves through a fleeting moment of a few seconds that can give you very clear indicators of where that person is in
Mm-hmm.
their thought processes, their mental emotional state, and their physical amplitude, because the body will show it in
Yeah.
all different levels of expression, whether someone
Mm-hmm.
might refer to it as a micro expression or patterns. We're referring to patterns. So when you talk to people, they show this unconscious reflex, and they don't know they're doing it. It's like,
Yeah.
for example, I was watching some nonsense on TV, on YouTube, and they brought up, I think it was a couple of guys from the government on some political nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And like he literally, they asked him a question and he said, absolutely this happened. And when he said absolutely this happened, his head was going, absolutely this happened. And like, and you're looking at this going, you can't believe it. Like he's admitting, his admission of what's really going on showed in his body language and he couldn't control it. Yeah. So it's like, unless you condition yourself, and in most cases, something as simplistic as that is like the adverse effects of what's really going on behind the messaging. And so you see that. And so when you're looking at patterns for people, you sort of assess it by having a conversation with someone and then looking at the regulatory oscillating effects, because it's all energy. So, you start talking to them, pretty mundane, benign sort of conversation. Then ask them a question like, did you like your name when your parents gave it to you? How long has it taken for you to get used to it? A few like unassuming questions where people would just answer without consciously thinking about manipulating the information, because the unconscious will work on a process where you get validation. So all we need is for someone to validate or commit to an acceptance 2 or 3 times through conversation. Then the unconscious starts to have this unbridled sort of oscillating effect where it will listen to whatever you're saying to the person who's already accepted and will start copying it. And you'll be like, whoa, wow. And they don't realize they're doing it. And you can do this with anyone. Like, say, for example, you're going to have a conversation with someone and just get them to comply with some type of answer. Like, oh, your name is Gary. Yeah. And you like the color blue. Actually, no, I like green. Okay. That's all it takes for you to now start communicating with their unconscious process, and they're not even aware of it. And now you're entering into what they call levels of conditioning. So you can start conditioning what they're experiencing and what they're seeing. And that's where most people manipulate. So if I go like this, and you look at my hand and go like this, and then I go, oh, Gary, I want you to think of something. And you'll be like, okay. And I'm like, is it an apple? How did you know that? And I'll be like, oh, no particular reason. I was just picking up on the energy. Now, there is a conditioning and a training to psychokinesis that is very tangible and real. That would be a manipulation. So when I flash my hand, on the corner of my hand, I would have the word apple. So fine print that you can't even understand or read it. But the periphery, the unconscious, is taking in everything, absorbing and observing everything. So that fleeting moment was enough to register that. So when I ask you the question, hey, think of something, instead of benign, you'll be like, apple. And then you go, holy crap. And then when I show it to you, and this is what blows people away, it's like, I couldn't even read that if I wanted to. This is happening all day long. And so how you excite yourself in the transmission of that, when you're looking at people and you want to get a gauge of what's going on, they just, the emanation comes out. And if you look closely enough, no matter how much they fight it consciously, they're being commandeered and it's emanating through the body what's really going on. And, some of the more benign things are things where you start the conversation unassuming, and then you get your information of patterns. So when you ask them a question or you have dialogue, they'll have these certain patterns. Like you'll be talking to someone and you'll ask them a question and you want to get a gauge of what's their registered unconscious behavior. So you'll say, oh, so you like cats. Cats have been a big part of your family. No, actually, I like dogs. And so through that moment, your eyebrows raise, your head moves back and forth, and then you do this, right? This is just a behavior that you use to indicate that registered truth for you. And so the observer would do it 1 or 2 more times and realize, oh, this is a very clear pattern. The eyes open, the eyebrows raise, and then they scratch their face. And to someone who's unassuming, they're not going to realize they're putting this information out there. Then you start talking more, and then you go on something obscure where, their answer is going to be either a lie or a truth, and you will be able to determine that because their behavior will have already been imprinted, and you'll see it. You'll be like, "Whoa!" Okay, when I mentioned the question before, when they tell the truth, these three activators take place in their face and their body language. And when they are lying, they do this. And you condition it into that. And it's like you can capture a truth or a lie very quickly just by the emanation of their internal state. And, I think that's kind of interesting for face reading. And then we go into looking at, the lines and the repetitions, the reps that you have in your body that will show itself. So how the lines are created. Like for me, I have these lines because I'm always smiling. This is a great indicator of that. You too, you're just unblemished. You have this purity. And no matter how much you smile, you're starting to create those lines. They call the lines of wisdom, right? And they're lines of wisdom.
I like that.
Yeah. And so you feel it through when you're telling truths. Most people open their eyebrows. There's an inflection point where they open their eyebrows, and there's this clear indentation within the forehead of this truth-telling process. And, when you see people that are fed into their certain expressions or emotions, it will start to bleed into their face. And you'll be like, oh, my goodness, in 1 second you can look at that. This area here has the activation of the liver. This has activation of the heart. This has activation of the spleen. And there's two corridors there where you could go liver and kidneys. But mostly people will look at that as the liver. And so you see these indentations. So you're like, okay, I don't have to do much. Just look at their face, and they've got grooves that they've run into their facial expressions that give you evidence of this person is really angry, this person is happy, this person is sad. And these are all just more indicators for people to help someone else understand who they are. And, as you go deeper into the alchemy, clear senses doesn't really require you having to take a close look at the facial expressions, but it's always a great ground level way to start to decipher what the message is that's coming out of this avatar. What is coming out? What are we expressing through our own journey? And that's the exciting part. You go, wow, this is this, and whoa, and you see so much about somebody without even talking to them, never even mentioning a word, never even interacting with a conversation.
Yep. Yeah, we're emitting and intaking so much information, so much data, so much energy, and it's up to you to be able to see it or not, right? It's like, are you still enough? Are you in the center point enough to be able to see the many, many messages that go beyond the five senses, beyond words, really? It's all there. It's all included. Everything is a message if you really want to get deep with it. Everything is a message if you know how to look at it. But yes, the body is a huge messenger. Many different ways to convey the energetic state.
And that's where reflexology is a fairly well-known sort of way to access energy, using acupressure points within the body to liberate constructed or stagnant energy by just hitting those acupressure points through a needle or with the physical pressure. You can liberate energy very quickly, and it's not it's not some type of diluted woo-woo. I mean, this is ancient energy pathways, and you'll see the evidence. You'll see it instantaneously. And, and the more mastered you become with the energy, you don't have to apply your physical to physical contact. It becomes so potent that the substance, the fajun, you can play with like putty, and you don't have to be in the same room. You don't have to have contact with the person, and the energy is liberated through that transmission. which is just part of your own cultivational practice.
Let me ask you this one. This might be a rather controversial topic. What do you think about the transmutation, the playing with sexual energy, like Tantra? That's kind of big in today's society. What does
Yeah.
Taoism have to say about working with Tantra? Could that be constructive or
Yeah.
destructive?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have Taoist sex magic. It's a huge,
Yeah.
huge. But it's like, what do you do with it? I mean, back in the day when I first started training in that stuff, you would be able to observe really, distorted environments. And some of my training required me to go into a very distorted environment, like a strip club or something like that. And you'd watch the ominous energies circling around these individuals that were literally selling themselves for money. And that energy was really inverted. And so you'd watch them, and then, as I would watch something like that, the purpose of the selfless cultivation of this pulse that we speak of is to bring the energy to completion. And so you would find that when you bring the energy to completion and everything is whole around you, that's what that pulse is. It brings everything back to center. You would see these fundamental shifts in people. And for example, many a time I would witness these individuals really stop their work immediately because I'm transmitting this pulse of unification, and they would walk out. Instead of like, oh, where's my next job? Where am I going to get another trick for a lap dance? They would just walk out because they just realized, I just woke up. That's not who I am. Holy crap. This is absolutely inverted and corrupted. And you would just watch them just have it. The pulse is that part that returns everyone to center. That's the beautiful part about magic from a Taoist, is the purpose of that is to bring everything back to whole. It's not about, oh, I want to conjure this to manipulate that. No, you bring the pulse back so everyone has the opportunity to remember who they are. And so sex magic, if cultivated through people that are unified and in that ritual, that sacred ritual of unification, can be so potent to their own self-realization. Yet there can be manipulative moments if you're just this vessel that is dealing with that dance of yin and yang, and there's all these identity shifts that take place, and we refer to that as shape shifting, where you're shifting in the gears of all these different identities within the personality, and you're not able to ground it. And so then there's problematic issues because it gets harpooned like a thought, feeling, and emotion. And so you evoke a certain response within this cultivational practice, and then it enters the heart and goes straight into the yellow cord and is permanently disseminated within the body. And so it can be very problematic, but it can also be very powerful. I believe there's a lot of misdirection in that space, and a lot of people are not realizing that it's a harvesting process. I had this one person that I knew who was conducting some type of like tantric sort of process where all these people would meet. There would be a bunch of women that would meet, and then the men would come in, and they would be the facilitators of their, basically, how do I put it nicely, their moment of completion and orgasm. And so you'd see this huge room full of women that are like got their pants taken off, and these men are pleasuring them. And what didn't happen was this guy would come back to me and go, you know what? I'm really kind of exhausted. I mean, you're not participating in anything other than, helping this person climax. And like, every time I do this, man, I feel tired. And I'm like, well, let me take a closer look at that. What happened was it was a whole process with this one woman that was heading up the whole process. It was a harvesting operation to harvest the energy from the individuals.
Wow.
And so the people that were thinking they were participating and they were like, oh, this is exciting, maybe I'll end up doing something else. No, you were just your energy was being harvested. And the women were basically being energized and feeding from that. It was a very corrupted process. When I explained it to him, he was like, I'm never going back there. Holy crap. Because you enter into this agreement when you have more parameters on your belief system because you're not settled within it. So things of fear and protection and constructs in that nature will affect ultimately how you are your relationship to that pulse. And so if you come in protection and fear and all these types of things, you're playing in a place where you shouldn't really be playing because you are me, I am you. What am I afraid of? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so essentially it's all about intention.
Well, it begins and ends there, but you have to validate, you have to know it, you have to feel into it. And that generally takes the processes for that realization. So it's a conditioning that makes it so that you remember who you are through that processes. So it's true. It's not transitory because most people are like, I'm not afraid of anything. Da, da, da. And you'll find a lot of channelers, healers, spiritual people. They can't get through their day. They're like, this is an exhausting processes and I can only take so much. I can do one client a week. It takes me 18 hours of process and ritual to do this one client. And I'm thinking, wow, this is something that you absolutely need to consider is how that you are connecting or that you need to even connect, that you are always this state. And that comes from a realization, a cultivational process, and it's not separate. So when people wrap themselves up in protection, that sort of shows me where they are at in their own self-realization. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes you separate. So when you meet something that's an energy that could potentially be low frequential, instead of if they go low, we go high, you get drawn to it. You're magnetized to it because you don't have the unified state and you're not regulated between that yin and yang. You're not centered. So it will instantly bring you down. And you'll be like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. Yeah. And so I believe that a cultivation, a union between two people in that, as we put it, sex magic is really powerful, yet it has to be a group effort. If one person is in and one person is out, it becomes a siphoning, harvesting process. And in 99% of the situations, the women, I think they call it succubus and incubus, they will consume and the man will be consumed. Their energy, their life force will be consumed. So, a lot of the misdirection for like semen retention and, abstaining from sex and all that kind of stuff within certain cultivational practices, again, is another misnomer. You need to understand that the more that you cultivate, you'll know that you've hit a spigot and it's overflowing because when you get into that union or you're just having, maybe you're not in a relationship, you're just having, sex with someone else, you'll know if you can invert that and cultivate it and then liberate it. Because for a man, the first simple thing will be, I'm energized. I'm able to redirect that energy. That's with a climax or not, physically or internally. A lot of people are saying, well, you don't want to do that. You're going to lose your essence. Well, again, that's a fallacy, but you get caught up in the Hollywood version of that. And the reality is when you hit that point, you'll be able to redirect the energy because everything's energy. So even if you climax and you may see physical evidence of such, you're redirecting the essence, the center point, the highest note, the highest frequency, and you draw that back into your lower dantian, as we put it within Taoism, and you just emanate that, and it becomes very potent. You'll feel like this, like an inhale, and it's so robust, it's so expansive, and you won't, fall asleep, or, these are the common issues that most men have. Maybe some women, it depends on if they're being harvested. But if they're being harvested, you'll notice that, I just need a little nap, because that you are really being consumed. Your constitution has been consumed. When it's a union and it's conscious, that's not the problem. You will not. You'll be like, holy crap, I feel like I'm energized. I just had like 5 cups of coffee, or whatever you refer to as a point of expansion, that you feel alert, awake, like someone hit you with an adrenaline shot, that kind of thing.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That was well spoken. Do you speak about that at all on your channel?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's an ancient practice. I normally don't get into it unless someone wants to talk about it. I mean, it's not, and I'm not either here or there with that. Depends on what's the flavor of conversation. But part of alchemy is it's a potent part, because it's just like the autonomous process where you realize that you're not operating your breath, your blood, your body is now. It's the same thing with climax. It's the same thing with sexual energy. It's potent. You can create it without having to be a master alchemist that's sitting on in a cave in a mountain, contemplating stillness or anything of that nature. You are creating it now. And another entry level would be finding your chorus or your high point of music. You realize, holy man, well, I don't know what it is. I just love this chorus and this line. And you feel the emanated effects of the creator. And they're like, oh, whatever they're saying, I'm picking it up. That oscillating we're having right now, it's picking up that state. You could enter that state at any point. Pick your greatest song, pick a sexual climax, realize that your body is operating outside of any interference of your conscious mind. And you have all these points. Whoa, there's so many ways I can validate this for myself without having to get caught up in a specific belief system, a religion, an indoctrination. These are just basic evidence. Holy moly. And I mean, and sexual energy is the most potent energy. And you watch it, and it's now. And anyone can create it. Anyone can create it. And, you may manipulate the body a little bit to make it happen, but it can be present and you can experience it. And, I think these are all really important for anyone that wants to know themselves, is to start identifying with basics that, I can't get this stillness thing. The void thing is too much for me. I've got a crazy mind. Start putting the evidence together. Okay, my body operates without me participating. I'm able to cultivate this incredible euphoria and this bliss and this expanded state from my own self manipulation, or perhaps I'm engaging with someone else. You can still create that. And then, furthermore, it's that point, that high point, where that emanation of your favorite song, whatever you jive to, you can feel the expressive creativity of that creator, that songwriter, that music maker. And you're like, wow, I'm digging what you're saying, my friend. And it's coming out through the music. And so you can literally enjoy their reflection of their high points and be right there and go, wow, that's the pulse. That's where it is. Oh my goodness. And I can hold it.
Yeah. There's many ways to the way.
Yes.
But music is very powerful. Music is a very powerful attunement, if it's the right song.
Right.
It's a very powerful tool in the toolbox. Because in some way, I like to see that this is just a song. Life is a song. And what is a song? It's all just patterns. Right? It's all just patterns synced up. Certain notes, certain frequencies synced up and played at the right time in the right place in the sequence. So you can look at your whole entire life as a song. And I think that's why music is very powerful, is because in some way it's like a reflection of this whole experience. It's the Bhagavad Gita. It's the song of the Lord. That's how I like to see the Tao or the flow, or God, this higher force, something you sync up with. Like we're in the orchestra, you can either play along or you can try and play your own tune. I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend you sync up with the orchestra and you learn what God is playing. And at that point, that's when the fun starts. There's many different ways in, many different instruments, you could say, many different ways to tune oneself. You can play the trumpet, play the violin, play the guitar. You know what I'm getting at? Different metaphors here. There's many different ways to attune oneself to the orchestra of the Tao.
Shakuhachi, one of my favorites.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Like it's originally I have this this back and forth because I'm a purist and a fanboy of Taoism, but originally the origins of a shakuhachi were within a Chinese culture, and it became very prominent within Japanese culture and ancient Japanese ritual. That shakuhachi became an intricate part of the seeker's relationship with that music to unify themselves. But I always go, it was originally Chinese. You get into that, you get down to the simplicity of it, but it is such an incredible tool and so powerful. Normally carved, there's incredible masters that carve these shakuhachis out of like bamboo, willow, and sometimes woods, certain types of woods. And it's a mastered state to be able to blow anything out of that doesn't sound like you're blowing through an empty pipe. It is an art form to shape your mouth and to embody that and have that bleed into your body and an extension of your body. And then you float. And if you ever want to, create this incredible intimate relationship with, Chinese or Japanese culture, listen to a shakuhachi and you'll be like, oh man, I'm good. This is like, it's hypnotic, it's infectious, and it just gets me so high. And that's what we want. We want that instrument that makes it happen. I mean, I used to play a trumpet, and that is a mastered art form too. You have to shape your lips to really blow anything out of it that isn't noise.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, and on the instrument metaphor, before becoming the master, whether you are playing the instrument or the master of yourself, I think it's important to emphasize that it takes time to know the technique. There is a sort of technique. We all have our own flavor, but still requires practice. I think that's also important to emphasize that Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to become a guitar master in a day or a trumpet master in a day or a master of yourself in a day. It takes a little bit of time to be able to know how to tune the instrument of the body. But it's quite simple. It is actually quite simple. Once you kind of know the ins and outs and you know who to learn from, where to tune from, then it actually becomes quite simple, and you just go with that flow. It's like anything. Once you know how to learn, once you learn enough to know how to do something, it's like just becomes very natural, very fluid. You don't even have to think about it, like riding a bike, right? That's the cliche metaphor. But once you learn how to ride a bike, you just go from there. You never unlearn how to ride a bike. So it's the same thing with tuning oneself to this energy that we're speaking on. It's like once you know how to tune the body, you're kind of good. It's like that's it. And that's the beauty of this, right? It's like once you know the practices, the modalities, you know who to tune to, it becomes a little easier. The whole process, the whole song of your life becomes easier to play. You know what I'm getting at here?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want to be childlike in your nature. Every day is a moment to play, to
Yeah.
remember, to remember, to remember, to forget, to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the essence of it's kind of a play on words. Well, this is a triple play on words, but it's the essence of play. Like you play your song by being able to play like a child at the playground. that's what we attune ourselves to, and that's what we remember, is just finding this essence of play in our life. Creation and play, I feel like, are hand in hand. They coincide. They're quite practically, I feel, the same thing. Like, you are only able to create something very pure when you can play like a child, because children, that childlike energy is purity, right? So I think that's it, man. It's like, unless you become like children, again, Jesus, unless you become like children, then you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. So finding that essence of play is what it's all about. And then from there, man, yeah, it becomes fun. Life actually becomes joyous and not a chore anymore. You can start to play at the playground. That's what it is. It's a return. It seems like we've come so far. At least that's what we've convinced ourselves. It's like we've come so far from the truth, from being able to tune ourselves, to align ourselves to the Tao. But in actuality, it's been there the whole time, since childhood. That return, it's always there for all of us. The capacity to return and remember that childlike innocence, it's always there. Maybe seemingly clouded, right? It may be seemingly distorted, and we have a facade over it, many different distortions, but it's simple to be able to polish the mirror, as Ram Dass says, to be able to polish it and return to the truth, the reflection of the truth of our childlike innocence. That's what I find, at least. I can only speak from personal experience, but other people have attested to that as well. There is this sense of just play, and it's play for play's sake. It's kind of like a game like as well, but it's a game that has no expectation of reward or achievement. The achievements may come and go in this game. The fruits of our labor may come and go, but we don't even do it for that. We just play just to play. We create just to create. Art for art's sake. And that is priceless. And that is touching upon the essence of immortality that we spoke on before. You can live unconditionally. Unconditional. That's freedom.
Oh, out question. Be childlike in your nature. Return back to the uncarved block and realize you are the master that can shape and shift and create anything. Anything that is born, it will complete and return to rebirth through every action. Inaction is that now.
Amen, man. And it all starts with the breath. It really does.
I mean, everyone dismisses that, and it's the most potent access point to self-realization, because you can accumulate that qi, which will show you even more evidence in how most techniques within Taoism will show you that absorption of the riches. And it's, it will show through the body, as we've spoken about earlier. And that vibration will start to emanate, and you will feel like a spinning bottle top, and it will start to reverberate and oscillate through the flesh. And that's always an exciting time when you harness that energy and realize that it's emanating through this container, and you're starting to create this ability to dissolve the barrier between conscious and unconscious, and you can access things that you thought were not obtainable because they were limited.
Yeah. Self-imposed limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't you find that the greatest sages have that playful attitude?
Oh, yeah.
They're funny. I think the best teachers are funny. If they're not funny, then I don't trust them. You got to be able to joke a little bit. Come on, don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I see it in my kids all the time. You want to observe a sage, a wisdom teacher, just watch a child.
How old are your
And
kids?
everywhere from 1.5 all the way up to 12. I have 6 of them.
Wow. I
Yeah,
didn't know that. That's awesome.
yeah. They're all amazing to
All
watch
little
them.
sages.
Yeah, they just actually, one of my son's name is Sage. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And he just has this prophet-like ability to just bring up something out of nowhere, and you're like, you can't make this stuff up. You just like, how did you? And I'm like, really? I'm really asking myself how he acquired this insight, this wisdom, insight. But it's like
He's tapped in.
you observe a child. Yeah, you observe a child, and they wake up with wonderment and excitement in their eyes, and they spend their day just creating. If it's Legos, playing outside, digging a hole, and then all of a sudden they'll go, "Oh, I need to eat." And that's where you realize how corrupted you are in a indoctrinated process where I must wake up, I must have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, the body will speak to you and what you need for sustenance, what you need. Don't turn it into a distorted amplification of who you are by consuming your feelings, your thoughts, and letting it sit in the body and making food that vehicle that is not it is a sacred ritual. Don't turn it into an abusive habit that will corrupt you. Mm-hmm. And that's the part where when you really embody and immerse yourself in that ritual, everything will have the most incredible heightened sense and taste and sensation, and your body will thank you for it, and it will nourish it.
That's a good point. Everything becomes ritualistic in some way, sanctified. Even the most mundane matters. Mm-hmm. If you know how to approach them with intention, again, then it creates that magic. It creates that playfulness. That's good.
That's why prayer before eating is so important, because you're imbuing that, purifying that as you create and remember your union with God, Jesus, Buddha, Tao. You feel that visceral connection, and it's like an instant purification. And so when you go out and you eat in a restaurant, or you go over to someone's house, or someone's cooking food, that mindfulness of the individual cooking that with love, unifying that with their embodied state is so important. If that's not happening, then you need to clear it and infuse it in whatever fashion that you do that, through prayer or incantation or whatever.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm actually very wary to eat out at restaurants because of that. Some people may call me crazy, but I believe what you just said is very true. Is that it's all about how this whole thing was put together, the energy, and food is literally energy, physical energy, how that was created, really. And most food at restaurants is not created with love, let's be honest. It's created by people that don't really want to be there. So I am very wary with eating out. Most of my meals are just created by me with love and intention.
Yeah. And then the body will transmute it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think we can what am I trying to say here? We can reflect that point into all matters of our life, which I'm pretty sure we've spoken on in this conversation. It's more than just food. It's all about intention and everything. It's like every event, if you approach it from the center point, will yield better fruits. Whether it's food or doing the dishes or your interactions with people or sex, playing the guitar, anything that we do in the human embodiment, if it comes from this center point, it means so much more. It's more magical. And as you said in the beginning, there's nothing that you have to do. That's the good news. To approach it from the center point, the Wu Wei, the Tao, to embody that wavelength and that frequency in the actions, you don't have to do anything. You just let the hands off the steering wheel. You let it flow. Like, this may sound corny, but like living in love, the flow of love, is actually the easiest thing and the simplest thing of all time. You don't have to give up anything, actually. When you live as an embodiment of love, you're not giving up anything. You're giving up your idea of control, and that's it. And then you can dance with whatever's going on in the phenomenal plane. I think it's like, to one that doesn't know any better, it can seem like a chore. The path, what we've been speaking on in the last 2 hours, it may seem like a lot, rather esoteric, out there. Like, I got things to do, man. Don't you understand? I got bills to pay. I got stuff to do. But you just proved that you got 6 kids, man. And you're resonating on this. So it's not like a chore. It's not something that you set aside to do per se. I mean, maybe the practices, yeah, but this wavelength we're speaking on is not something that's like, oh, I gotta tap in. I gotta align. No, no, no. If anything, once you are tapped into yourself, it allows you to dance the dance even better. It allows you to play the song even better. All of the goings on of your life, the ephemeral experiences of your life are synced up and smoother, essentially, once one is tuned in. It doesn't negate any of that. That's the thing. It doesn't negate it. If anything, it's an embrace. It's an embrace of the seeming chaos. And you, out of that chaos, create a little bit of order from the stillness. There is an orderliness once one is situated within the throne of the center point. You know? It's not a chore. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. My point is, it's not like some kind of, the spiritual path, if you even want to call it spiritual, it's not like something that you have to really worry about. It's not something that you have to like, oh, I gotta go meditate, or I gotta go do this, or it's not like painstaking. It's natural. I don't have any other word. It's natural. It's our natural resonance.
That's the default.
Yeah, exactly. It's the default. We're taking ourselves out of the default through all of the illusions and stories and narratives that we try and put upon. I should do this. I need this. Whenever you approach life in that manner, you're taking yourself out of the default. It's crazy though, because the popular paradigm is in this undefaulted state, which is seemingly the default. You know what I'm getting at? So it's like we're living completely backwards. We think the default state, especially in the Western world, is this chaotic, hedonistic, nihilistic mindset, when it's quite the opposite. Your default is in flow. It doesn't need any of that stuff. It doesn't need materialism. So that is also the glory of this whole thing. That is the miracle, that you're finding out the spiritual path is really the only way. I don't see any other way to find happiness. It is the default. And that's the good news. That's the gospel.
And so when you take a moment, this is where people get evidence. It's like, oh my goodness, life is too overwhelming. I need to separate myself. Just take a moment, be with my own self, pause, take a breath. I mean, these are the common responses that people have when they're overloaded with the incessant nonsense of the human condition. And so they just take a second, and like doing that is literally looking in the mirror and remembering this now moment, the permanence of the pulse. And you're like, hang on a second, whoa, just taking a breath.
That's it.
Oh, that liberated that energy. Well,
It's
yeah,
that
you're
easy.
showing yourself right here.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it. I like to also reiterate that point. This whole thing isn't meant to be complicated. There's many different paths, and it can get quite deep and esoteric in terms of knowledge, but really it just comes down to the breath, as we said many times. Just take a deep breath, acquaint yourself with the breath, maybe in actual formal practical meditation sessions, but then take that acquaintance with the breath into the goings on. And it's that simple. That's how you go with the flow. When one, I'm speaking myself, when one is like flustered, sometimes all I got to do is just, like you said, just go, okay, breathe out. And that regulates the nervous system. Deepening the breath in and out. Yes, this is it.
Mm.
It is so simple. It's hidden in plain sight. I think we said that in the beginning of the conversation. It's so simple. It's hidden in plain sight, man.
And that's the ancient technique within nei-gong, is you use the combination of moving energy with your mind and moving energy with your breath. And then you harness this and you turn into basically the amber, what we call the amber effect, where your breath recharges the physical body at will. And so when you go to sleep through this alchemical process, your breath will supercharge your body. And when you wake up, you'll feel like a glow stick. And that's part of the alchemical. You're like, whoa, like I'm literally oscillating right now. I've done nothing, because you're connected with that unification through the alchemical process. And then it becomes realized.
And then you become glowing. It's funny how that's a term that we use. Oh, you're glowing.
Illuminating.
Illuminating, right? But that's real.
Oh, yeah.
Illuminate light. The glowing, the aura, getting back to the body and how it shows us evidence. It's real, man.
More and more.
And it all starts with the breath. Hey, man, I think we can wrap it up. We've said, I think, everything we needed to say. Keep it simple. Just breathe. Remember to breathe. Deepen the breath. Follow the breath, and that will lead the way. I don't have anything else to say, but do you have anything else you want to get off your chest before we stop recording?
No, I think this communion right now has been beautiful, and it's just that beautiful little dance that we play in, and that undulating flame can be the yin and yang, and let it flicker, let it emanate, and let it show itself. From that heat evokes the spirit, the Shen, and it starts to be the very guiding force that you need to realize who you are. And it all starts and ends with that. And you feel it just like we feel it right now. And it doesn't require any insight.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for coming on here.
I got much love for you, brother. I'm very, very grateful for you in my life.
Same to you. Right back at you. I look forward to all of these conversations. Maybe we can do them more often.
Yeah, I would love that.
Maybe 4 or 5 now, something like that.
Yeah. It's been a few.
This would be good to have regular tuning sessions, tapping in.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call them, but yeah, that's what I feel. It is some sort of tuning. You tune me, I tune you, and the listener. We're all tuning each other.
It is. It's so expansive.
Yeah.
I just love that feeling of that liberation. It's like it's a wholeness.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. I thank you for allowing the opportunity to be tuned, to remember, to remind.
Thank you, brother.
For sure.
Look forward to this again.
Yes. And peace and love to you, and peace and love to anybody that listens to this long. Goodbye, everybody.